Hello, YouTube. Once again, we are here live on the Prof Sales YouTube channel. I'm your host, Prof Sales, Jason, and I'm glad you're here. If you're just joining us for the first time today, please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment either in the chat today, which I will get to right now, or if afterwards. And I have a special guest with me today. This is Frank. Frank is from Florida, so he's not having the terrible weather we're having here on the coast of North Carolina.
Nope.
But Frank, man, I'm really excited to do this show with you. We haven't done a show together. It's our first show. And why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and let everybody know who you are?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. And we've been talking for a while, so I'm glad that we've been able to do this. So again, my name is Frank from Florida, live outside Fort Lauderdale, not dealing with any of the inclement weather out there, unless you consider the heat and the humidity. But anyway, with reference to Amazon World, I started selling actually way back in 2011, and I was actually a coaching student, and then along the way, I was actually a coach for a while before getting burnt out. And I, as a really singular entity, and just in doing everything by myself, and help sometimes from my wife and my children, but mostly everything is myself. I've had the ups and downs that everyone has had. So everything is really transparent with me. I've had years that were fantastic in sales, and I've had years that weren't the best in sales. I've had months that were amazing and months that aren't that good. And a lot of it was the constant flow and the sending in of shipments. But I've done everything from online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, wholesale, private label, liquidation pallets, you name it. Grocery is kind of my main thing, but I've pretty much sold everything under the sun.
Yeah, and so interesting. Like you and I have talked a lot about grocery lately, and full disclaimer, I know virtually nothing about grocery other than I like to eat. But grocery on Amazon is, I won't say it's an untapped niche, but there's definitely a lot of people who kind of sleep on it and forget about it. And I know that Frank, you've had a lot of success, finding grocery items. You've shared some of the stuff you found recently. So, I mean, what's like a secret to, well, maybe not a secret, but something that, what do you think people should know about grocery on Amazon they maybe don't know right now?
Yeah. And it's funny because when my first and only coach, she was, she goes, if you want to start making sales right away, she goes, go to the grocery store and start scanning items. And again, this was like back in 2011. And I thought she was completely off her rocker. I said, she's insane. I said, who on earth is going to be buying grocery products from Amazon? But lo and behold, that became like my first 3 years. The main thing is packs of, twos, packs of fours, packs of 6, 8, even up to 12. That's where you could command not only a higher price, but you'll also get more profit at the end of the day. The singular items, to me, it just wasn't worth it. So everyone has to think of 2s and 4s and 6s and 8s and 12s. That's really the key with grocery. And you'll find that most of those have little to none competition.
Yeah, and we've talked about this a few times. I hate grocery. Well, I don't hate grocery. I hate packs.
Right.
So sorry, my dog is running around here behind me, so she might make an appearance at some point. But yeah, I think that grocery is definitely one of those areas I need to get better at. I need to get over my pack and phobia, if that's what it is.
Yeah.
And just take the plunge. I've sold a few grocery items. I definitely like sourcing grocery stores, more so for maybe not traditional grocery items, but items like health and beauty and things like that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of items there I think I could do better with if I just tried. So I'll resolve to try. It's a 2022 resolution.
There you go.
So, but let's jump in today. So I want to talk about OA sourcing, and Frank and I have had a lot of conversation about this. I know a lot of people out there are probably, they've heard of OA. Maybe they have done some OA. Maybe they've have a friend who's done some online arbitrage, but maybe they don't understand kind of what it is they're really looking for and looking to do. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to jump through kind of what we've identified are some of the biggest, shall we say, criteria that you need to think about when you're sourcing an OA item. Then we're going to do some live OA sourcing with some leads and show you kind of like our thinking too. And Frank and I have not rehearsed this. We did not practice this. So this will be fresh and new, and that's always good, I think. So let's jump in and talk about probably one of the biggest, shall we say, criteria when it comes to OA sourcing, and that is profit. So Frank, what are you looking for in terms of profit? When I say that word to you in OA sourcing, what kind of goes through your mind?
Yeah, again, that same individual who told me about the grocery, they again back in 2011 said, if you're looking for a baseline, minimum of $5. Now, that of course throughout the years has been a little bit challenging because of the increasing competition and the prices just going up and down. And nowadays, I think a lot of people even go after if it's $2 or $3 at the end of the day. But there's some context to it, right? What's the buy cost at the end of the day? What's how consistent does it sell? I keep in my mind, in my personal opinion, I keep that $5 still as the baseline. However, though, I am pivoting and becoming more flexible, but that's kind of where it starts.
Yeah, I like the $5 threshold too. And I like to think of it in terms of, all right now I am the prep and ship person. I am the sourcing person. I'm the buyer. I'm the person processing all the units. So if I were paying someone to do that, what would I pay them per unit?
Hmm.
And then I want to think about, all right, well, I need to build in some profit for myself. I need to build in some shrinkage. Things are going to be damaged. Things are going to get returned and unsellable, and so all those things kind of chip away at that $5 number. So if you start with a 4 or a 3 or even a 2, as I've seen some people suggest, by the time you take away all those things, like you have no money left. Like for me, prepping and shipping an item floor in terms of the labor cost is $2.
Right.
And that probably includes like prep cost. That includes like prep materials too. Like if it needs a poly bag, some portion of a box that it's going to get sent in,
Or
all
the
those
the
things.
old
So
shrink wrap, right? The old shrink wrap.
see, and that's Frank. He's doing sets.
That's
And I
why.
was like, how do you do sets so well? And he's like, shrink wrap. And I was like,
Shrink wrap.
oh, that makes perfect sense. But yeah, I think all those things apply to profit. But let's switch gears and talk about the return on investment. So now
Yeah.
you've got your profit number. Let's say it's $5, but you're going to spend some amount of money to make that $5. And what are you looking for in terms of return on what you're spending? And maybe talk about what you like to spend too.
Right. Exactly. The 30% number has been the one that's kind of hovering. Again, though, as of recently, though, I have been going anywhere between 20 and 25, but 30 is my baseline, kind of like that $5 number. Now, as far as what I've been spending and what I cap things at the end of the day, I try not to buy items that are more than $75 and higher. Now, I don't know if that's an error of my own. I don't know if I'm leaving money on the table by not entertaining those items. I just find it hard at the end of the day to spend $75 on an item, and the return on that is 5. However, though, I could be really missing out on some things, but that's usually where my mind is going when I'm playing around.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same mindset. And I think it comes down to this as well. Like you can't spend a return on investment, right? You spend actual dollars. Like your return on investment, if you buy something for $1 and you sell it and make $1 profit, your return on investment's 100%, but it's only $1. It doesn't really pay for your cost to prep and ship that item. It doesn't pay for any of your expenses. And it really isn't enough. So it's like, you have to think about, and you might take a lower return on investment for a higher dollar amount. Like I would rather have a $20 return on investment on a $100 spend than say a, $5 return on say a $10 or $10 spend. Because, it's $20. I don't have to sell as many of those to make the same. Sorry, my dog is grabbing the shrink wrap, literally. So, but yeah, so I mean, ROI is something important to think about, but I think people can get hung up on it. So let's talk about sales per month, because sales per month that's one of those things that people forget about. A lot of times people will see an item, Frank, and they'll say, oh, well, that's got a good ROI, good amount of profit, but they forget to look at, is it selling? What's kind of your criteria for sales per month?
for years, I want to say probably like the first 5 to 6 years of my selling tenure, I didn't even have I think the proper tools to really dig in to look to see the sales per month. Again, I had these criteria in my head: $5 minimal profit. Is Amazon selling on it or not? Which obviously we could talk to, and there's some context to if Amazon is the seller. I was always looking for things that were less than 10 sellers as well. And I figured at the end of the day, regardless of sales rank, especially with these kind of grocery items, I would really be hunting for at the end of the day. I could go ahead and make the sale. Now, obviously, some things took longer, and as everything evolves, you really have to be cognizant of the amount of sales that it has. There's so many tools now that you're able to do that with. So, again, depends per item. There's some context to it. I try to see if things sell anywhere between 20 and 30 a month. That's really what I go for at the end of the day, and that's where I start. And I see someone here put 30 a month. So yeah, that's a good standard.
Yeah, that was Josh Cheney who said that 30 sales a month. And I
Yeah.
like that number, Josh. I think I'm willing to go lower on certain things. Again, it's sort of a combination of, is there enough money involved? Like, if it's a higher dollar amount of profit, I will definitely go lower. And it also keys into the amount of competition, which we can talk about as
Right.
well. You might go lower per sales per month if there's a lot less competition, because you know, maybe the competition doesn't have good ratings. You can knock the price down. And that's just one of those things where, you kind of have to play that a little bit by ear, but be cognizant of sales per month, because it definitely can wreck you if you buy something and only sells once per month and you buy 50 of them. Well, you're going to be sitting on that a long, long time and tying up your capital, which I think Josh mentioned as well.
Right. And keep in mind too, a lot of these things are estimates, right? So obviously these tools they give us an insight, but again, a lot of them are estimates. And I've had situations where I've seen things sell even higher than 30 units per month, and you get in there and you're competitively priced, and they don't do that based on the data that comes back. So again, it's a little bit of rolling of the dice. That's why there's so many different things in the pot that you have to make sure are working.
Yeah, I agree. And it's definitely one of those things you really have to think about it before you leap. So, and it requires a little bit of experience too around that particular one. I'm going to talk about this one, and I think this one is not talked enough about with leads groups and lead lists and so on, and that's margin. Now, we'll get into this a little bit more when we go into the actual live sourcing and so on. But, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Frank, because I don't know how much we've even really talked about this, but I know for me, I like a healthy enough margin, and we'll talk about the calculators and how that can be figured out, because your margin, it tells you how much is left over after Amazon's fees and after your cost of goods. And you think, oh, well, that's all mine. But the reality is it's not, right? Because you got to use that money to run your business. I mean, how do you view it, Frank?
I think that's where a lot of people maybe get tripped up at the end of the day, because if you're chasing the pennies, so to speak, as opposed to the dollars, I think you're going to have a cash flow issue at the end of the day. And if you're trying to survive off of doing this, that's going to be challenging, because you're right. You need enough margin to not only get your return to go ahead and buy new inventory, but then also to survive. And I've myself have had to look hard and be like, okay, I need that number to be higher. So that's why also the chase of maybe higher dollar products. I don't know if there's a specific number though, because I think it's going to vary based on everyone's situation. But I agree. I think it's not talked about enough. I just think it's sales, and people post their sales, and you have amazing sales numbers. I always give this one example when I was a coach of these students before they even had the first session with me. They had a private label product that was selling amazing. It was probably selling anywhere between 60 to 80 units a day. And I said, they don't need me. I said, why on earth would they need my help? They're doing better than any one of my product private label products. When you got into things, it was making 50 to 60 cents on the net. So if we do the math there, it's not necessarily as great as it appears.
Yeah, I think it's you're exactly right. I think that the challenge for a lot of people is they tend to forget that the money to run your business comes from the money you get from selling your products. And to your point, margin's not everything, because if you're accepting a 10% margin and you're selling a $500 item, well, that's a $50 margin. And that might be more than sufficient to, keep replenishing those types of items. So it's not just the percentage, but one way you can look at this is, and this is probably a topic for a whole nother video, but if you go into your inventory lab or whatever product you're using to track your business, you can figure out your operating costs. So in other words, for
Right.
every $1,000 of sales you have, how much of it was how much operating expenses did you incur? Was it 10%? Was it 20%? Whatever it is. And so then that's like your floor, because if you go below that consistently, like let's say that every month you're spending 20% of your sales revenue in operating costs to run your business,
Right.
subscriptions, leads, your supplies, all these things, shipping, maybe all kinds of things. And so if you start sourcing items that are lower than a 20% margin, you're going to have a cash flow issue eventually. Eventually, you're not going to have any
Right.
cash to run the business.
Right. That's a
So that's
problem.
that's a good, easy way to look at. Yeah. And we've all run into that. So that's why I think margin is important to think about. Just again, it's another one of the factors. Let's jump to the one that's probably the one that most people know. And it's probably one of the most misunderstood topics, and that would be sales rank. Um, wow, I think we could do a whole show on this one. Could we not?
Yeah.
Sales
Yeah.
rank is the one factor that I think most people are not only most familiar with, but like I said, probably get wrong when they analyze it. And full disclosure, I have dropped back and punted many times with sales rank on items and thought, oh, well, just because that's this rank, it'll do this or that. But what has your experience been with in sales rank, and figure out how to integrate into your business, Frank?
It's such a volatile number. I feel, and again, context is king, because every category, every subcategory, the sales rank to me means something completely different. And I feel like everyone is always chasing the shiny, sexy sales rank right under 100,000, or some under 50,000, or any time I speak to a person about a product, they're just looking for these things. And yeah, Josh says it right here. You have to know the category. Again, I'll use grocery as a prime example. If I'm on the clearance racks and I'm sourcing something, and I see that there's like one merchant fulfill seller, or there's no sellers at all, and it has upwards of 250,000 or even 300,000, I'm buying that item just because I know the minute it hits, it's going to sell relatively quickly. And there's a lot of context to those. Even the holiday items, I do a lot of seasonal items, and a couple months prior, the sales rank is high. Well, if I base it off of what people are going for, then they wouldn't even touch those at the end of the day. So I think it is per category. It kind of then leads into the next question, which is the price over a period of time too. If you're seeing that the price is consistent and hasn't been up and down and all around, that makes it even more attractive, even with a higher sales rank, to me at least.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it's all the confluence of all those factors in terms of the number of sellers, the seasonality of it. A lot of people look at the percentage that the item is, and so the actual rank number, the percentage it is in a given category. Josh made that point, I think, too, about it's category specific, and that's true. However, the velocity changes on a rank item, like a toy item that's ranked 50,000 in the summer versus
Right.
in the winter is different.
Hmm.
So the velocity of it, and you can see that too with tools. You can see how much it's likely to um, move in a given period, and you can see that on Keepa too, which we'll get to in a moment.
Yeah.
But how much it's dropping. So sales rank is one of those I think you need to keep studying and learning, and really evaluating. I'm not saying you got to spend 10 minutes on every single item sales rank, but you need to take a little time to fully understand it, because it's a really misunderstood metric, and it really shows you. It's kind of like my favorite example when people talk about public opinion polls and they say, well, a poll says this or a poll says that. That is just a snapshot in time.
Yep.
It's not predictive of the future. It doesn't really tell you what happened in the past. It really only tells you, assuming the poll is well constructed, what's people think at that moment about that subject. Doesn't tell you intensity either, usually. But sales rank is kind of like that. It is a point in time in any given moment on what that item was selling. But to make a prediction about what it'll do in the future requires more information. So
yeah, it does.
All right, so let's jump on to IP issues.
Oh.
How many of you out there, show of hands, have listed something and then or you bought something and then you found out later it was something you could not sell, or not sell, but it had risk, shall we say. It had risk of you getting a nasty letter or a nasty email from Amazon or the brand and saying, you can't sell this. We're going to come after you. We're going to take your house, take your kids, all these FedEx overnight letters that you get from the Voorhees of the world and so on. Frank, have you been involved in any lawsuits yet with your items on Amazon?
Well, I mean, the everyone, I would assume, or most of us have insurance, right? So hopefully that protects us to a certain level. But early in my selling days, there was an item, I forgot what it was now. I think it could have been like some sort of muffin or cornbread mix. And I remember getting just a letter and completely freaked out. But when we called the lawyer at the time, he
Wait, did you say cornbread mix?
I think so, yeah.
That's just funny to me for some. It was the cornbread.
It was the cornbread.
Please continue.
People.
Sorry. The cornbread lobby.
I know. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, and I remember getting that so early on in my selling tenure, and freaking me out. But it all worked out at the end of the day. But I mean, even recently, you get. Everything works out fine, right? You're approved to sell it. You see other sellers are on there. You send them in. Next thing you know, you're getting the letter. You're getting the complaint. Goes on your performance record now, which is another thing. And it's almost the scarlet letter at the end of the day. And it's interesting. And they are troublesome, especially because they're very persistent. They're very aggressive with wanting to get an answer from you. But luckily, that's why we don't go that deep on the inventory, right? So hopefully we could sell them before anything happens, or we just get them back and either return them or sell them on eBay. But yeah, we've all been there. I mean, everyone has.
Yeah, I just got one yesterday from Gerber, and it was like the whole C attached file, and the file goes to a JPEG of a letter, and I don't want to get into like how to handle all these. There's a lot of different tactics you can use and a lot of different strategies based on what it is they're asserting. But I will say, as a rule of thumb, if you're worried about a particular item, just pull it. Try to sell through on it really fast. If you can knock it down in price, maybe get rid of it, or else just pull it and be done with it. And then delete the listing. That's one tip, by the way, because if you have even a closed listing that's still sitting there, you still could get a notification in the future, because sometimes these brands can go after people even who used to sell the product. But that's always like a good rule of thumb. That way you're like, all right, fine. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I had one the other day, but it was a bag of dog treats. And this guy was like I guess he's like the brand owner. And he just kept like issuing these fake IP complaints saying this was a counterfeit product. And it wasn't. It was bought off of Chewy.com. But, I finally, after a while, just gave up. I was like, you can have it, man. It's all your listing. Knock yourself out. There's too many things out there that aren't IP issues. Next up is matches product source. Now, this is a pet peeve of mine, Frank. I don't know about you, but it's a pet peeve that when I get an item from an OA leads service, the item doesn't match either what's on the website, doesn't match Amazon's listing, or Amazon listing doesn't match, or both. There can be some combination of it. Any tips or tricks, man? Like, this one drives me crazy, honestly.
Yeah, it's tough because I've made so many errors at the end of the day, just basing my faith on these lists, and I'll buy it. Then I'll be like, wait, this is not the product at all. Or you go through your whole process, right? Are you approved to sell it? Oh, the profit works out. Then you're checking out, and you're like, wait a minute. You're like, this is not the same item. How on earth did this happen? It's a big pet peeve of mine too, especially with the sourcing lists. On our own, it's a little bit of a different story because there's it's room for error, and those aren't we're not paying for those. Well, maybe in another way, but yeah, the best way is to double triple check the if something seems off. Like there was an item I think we talked about last week where I'm like, wait a minute, I'm like, the ounces here on something is showing something different. Check the title, check the bullet points, check the descriptions. If something does look fishy, just do your due diligence that way. But I wish there was some sort of resolve for things like that, but man, they're always going to happen.
Yeah, I think it starts with your. Sorry, I'm just watching my dog.
No, it's okay, go ahead.
She's like, this kid. You can probably see her ears down there in the,
Yeah.
in the corner. She's a German Shepherd, and she rules the roost.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that it starts with your leads list service, and that's one of the things. Obviously, I just started an OA leads list service. You can find that info down below, and that's one of the things that I'm going to try to be very, very diligent about to check to make sure that the items match.
Yes.
Because it's very frustrating to pay for something that isn't legitimate, isn't valid. So, and you really have to watch because people do all kinds of weird things where they put like they'll put like a count down in the description, or they'll put a number, and then you get it. And then one tip on this I can give everyone: check reviews. Because if the reviews say, and also check to make sure that it's really, if it seems too good to be true, there's probably something already wrong. Like you're like, I can buy this for $5 and sell it for $100. Sign me up. Probably not. Something's probably wrong there.
Right.
But check the reviews and see if you see any negative reviews that say things like, I ordered what I thought was 5 and got 1. And then that is a red flag when you start seeing reviews like that say that, because chances are somebody has sourced that item and sent it in, and they probably got it off of an OA lead list, and they thought, I only got to send one in, when really somewhere buried in the description or buried in the title or buried in the details was that it was more than one.
Yep.
So be very, or that the ounces were wrong, or the color was wrong, the model, or so many things can go wrong with it. All right. So the last one on this section is restrictions themselves. And restrictions, for those of you who don't know, means that you cannot sell the brand. Amazon has a brand, a way to get approved on brands. Most of them, not all. Some brands, they do not accept any new third-party sellers.
Right.
What's been your, like, Frank, you're kind of OG when it comes to Amazon sellers. I think every time I send you something, you're like, yeah, I can sell that. I'm like, dang, I can't sell it. What's been how do you deal with restrictions in general? Do you take the time to try to get approved, or do you just move on to the next lead, or what does that look like?
Yeah, if I am, I guess, grandfathered in on a lot of things, especially on the grocery and the health and beauty side. In fact, before, I was a seller prior to the health and beauty, before any of those restrictions. So really the Wild West at that point in time. If I'm not auto approved, then I'm not going to entertain it, just because time is money. And, I think it's a little bit, you have to be really cognizant with the time. The challenge, and I was telling you this the other day, that I'm finding now is you do become auto approved. Everything goes good. It goes in your inventory batch. There's no issues whatsoever. Then the minute it gets to the warehouse, it goes into your unfulfillable inventory. And then for some reason, you're not auto approved anymore. So then you have to request those back. That's the challenge that I don't know the workaround. I had one item that same thing happened to me. I had it back. It was sitting literally on the floor here. Then 2 weeks later, I went to try to sell it. I got auto approved. I sent them in, and then they all sold. So I don't know why that happens. And if you try to, of course, open up a case, you'll never get the answer either. So that one's challenging. But I don't. If I have to get documentation, I just move on to something else.
Yeah, I do the quick try to get auto approved as well. There were there was two big brands last fall that I got approved in, Nike and Adidas, because they were coming up on so many lists. There's so much opportunity in those two brands to get just multiple SKUs and multiple different products that I thought was worth it. But there's still a lot of brands that I'm restricted on. And, going the invoice route and getting 10 is valid. There's lots of services out there that'll help you do that. Technically, you don't need them because you can do most of that on your own. You just have to find a site that will accept an invoice, or Amazon will accept an invoice from, and they will more than you think. Because ultimately Amazon wants to approve sellers. It doesn't want to keep people restricted. The brands might want to keep people restricted, but Amazon doesn't, because it wants more selection, more variability, more lower prices, and more choices for their customers. So, it's one of those things, like restrictions are just a way of life there. But I would say overall, try the auto approval if that's your, if you have a chance. And if you don't get it, move on. Unless it's just a brand that at some point, and then you're going to need to take those separate steps to get it. And it's usually worth it, for some of the big brands that are out there that are often restricted. But it's very strange how they decide who's restricted and what. Like theoretically, the argument's always been the more brands you get unrestricted in, the more brands you will get unrestricted in. But then there's some that you just seem to run up against a wall and they don't change. And then there's others that certain periods of the year, almost Amazon just starts opening up. It's the weirdest thing. Like right now, they seem a little bit more restrictive, at least in my experience. Whereas for run up to Q4, they weren't, which kind of makes sense to their business.
Right. So after quarter four, then all of a sudden they got a little bit more restrictive.
A little bit more. And again, that's kind of anecdotal, word of mouth. I'm going to talk just really quickly about 4 other tools that you need. And we're going to actually jump into one of these quite a bit. And that's a repricer, which I like. Be Cool. And I know Frank you use that one too.
I do.
Inventory Lab, which allows you to create your batches to send into Amazon or do FBM. It also has accounting functions, tracks your expenses, tracks your inventory, all that good stuff. Keepa is, what more can you say about Keepa? Spring and get the subscription to Keepa. It's a year. It's about $170.
It's pretty cheap.
1 trillion% worth it. I don't even know how you would source RA or OA without it. Honestly, it would be very problematic. And then lastly is, in my case, is AZ Insight, which is an on-screen calculator, which allows you to see all the data. And we're going to show you that in a moment around a particular page, and if a particular item works or not for you. What has been your experiences with the tools that you've used, Frank? I think you use all 4 of those, but do you use any other ones as well?
So definitely Be Cool. I find that to be the best and most affordable repricer, and the repricer is key. It does something to your accounts where if you have a repricer on, you're gonna get really a lot more sales. Inventory Lab, I was there for the beta actually, because I remember I was going ahead and just having a headache of the time where my wife was about the accounting. So I was actually on Inventory Lab beta way back when. So that to me is worth its weight in gold. Keepa actually is fantastic. I have Jungle Scout, which I don't use as often as I used to. Again, I was on their beta, but I still have the extension. I also had something from the late, if anyone was familiar with Jordan Malik, he passed away, I think last year, but his Clear Pro Platinum extension too, which it was kind of like a X-ray to see like the sales real quick and the sales rank and things of that nature. Jungle Scout also has that same functionality, but I have all of those. And to answer just Josh's quick questions, I have tried OA X-ray on Tactical Arbitrage now, and I have used Helium 10. I had their full suite when I was doing a lot of private label products. So I have used both of those.
Yeah, I definitely think all these products are designed to help you improve your business. I caution people, don't be like me and end up trying everything. So at some point you kind of need to settle on certain things and move forward with them. I'm probably a little bit more apt to jump from tool to tool from time to time because you tend to think, oh, this one will be better because it does this one little doohickey thing better. But often you're better just finding some really basic ones that work and really master those and let them adapt them to your business until sometimes they don't work. And sometimes something better comes along. But I feel like a lot of these spaces around the tools around Amazon are very mature.
Yeah.
The tools that are out there have already been, for the most part, vetted. And there are some that aren't good and don't really do what they say they do or are glitchy. But if the ones that work, like they do like 99.9% of the things you're ever going to need. So you just got to find the one that works for you and then just make sure you kind of get some mastery around it.
Yeah, and watch your costs too. I did mine, and I'm probably spending about 300 on the tools, and I don't think that's too bad. But there's been times when I've spent way more than that, and then what happens is then you stop using them for a while, just because of it depends on what's going on, and then are they really worth it? So keep that in mind when you're going through all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump into some actual. We'll do some sort of online OA sourcing right here in the moment. I don't know if I said that right, but you get the point. As many of you know, I started OA leads list just recently. And one of the things that we offer you is free OA leads when you sign up. You get 5. We rotate those out every week. So it's a new batch every week. So you're not getting ones that are, weeks and weeks or months old. But that encourages you to sign up. And then what we're doing is we're pushing out weekly leads, weekly one-off lead list. It's a one-time expense. You purchase the leads. They usually come out to about 65 to 75 cents a lead. So they're very affordable. And we vet them. We vet them manually. We source them manually and I personally go through and look at all of them to try to verify all the information. So that way you're getting leads that meet the criteria and work. And you can see more about that in the description of this video. So I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, but I want to show you what one of these lists was. This was a list that ended last week. So I don't think I'm really giving away too many secrets here by sharing this, but I'll show you the 5 leads that we were giving away up through the 18th and kind of what we would do when sourcing them. So let me see if I can get this to share here. This is what the lead list looks like. And it's got your standard columns. You got date, profit, ROI, store name, so on and so on across. But we'll jump in and look at these. One of the things I was telling Frank, I like having the 2 links right here together to the buy price, to the buy price, to the source as well as Amazon, because you can very quickly click on both of those, highlight them, and hit Alt Enter if it's a Google Sheet, and it'll open up both at once. Just saves a little time. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and select these 2 right here on this first lead, and we're going to jump in and look at these. And you can see these open up. I'll bring Frank and us back here. All right, so this is the Amazon product page. As you saw, it jumped up. This is the Nordstrom page where this item is here. And this kind of goes back to the criteria we gave you a minute ago. And kind of a good rule of thumb, Frank. I don't know how you do it, but I do like this rule of thumb. If it's not available here, you're done.
Yeah, absolutely. Move on.
You're done. So, I mean, this item only comes in one size and it is available, and this is on Nordstrom. So, hey, if you're watching this and you want to get this, go buy it. We didn't talk about cash back, but we do offer a cash back row as well, too. The best ones we think at the time.
Yeah.
You may be at different ones, but right now it's saying top cash back is the best at 2%, which that's fine. I'm not going to turn it on for this. Okay, so let's get into this lead. So this lead is $25 for Super Mud Clearing Treatment Mask. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the Amazon product page, right? And so far, this all looks correct. But I see a problem with this one. No, I don't. Wow, this is weird. This has got a weird title. This one, oh, wow. This might have changed. I think this product page. Oh, no, that's right. I'm totally confused here. Half an ounce.
I think what it is it's one of those varied product listings, right? That has multiple choices on there.
Oh, yeah. I'm on the wrong one, I think. All right. So, all right. And this one's kind of a little tricky to find and go through. And this is kind of this is kind of a pain in the butt with beauty. I find because beauty always tends to be this. So this product is, it's kind of hard to tell. I'm trying to figure out if this is exact same one. This is one we pushed out, so this is kind of annoying if it wasn't. But sometimes what will happen too is the product page, it'll have a choice here, and the choice will go away. And then the choice that's left is, something wrong, or not something wrong, but something different. So this one, it says choose a size 1/2 ounce, but it doesn't say 1/2 ounce on here. That sure does look like the same product to me, Frank. I don't know about you.
Yeah, so I'm looking at it on my side. So I see the 1/2 ounce, but the listing says
1.2.
1.2. So that's actually a good example, so people could know to do their due diligence here.
Well, and it's a little confusing on this one because, all right, so here's what I'm looking at. So our package quantity is 1. That's legitimate. The product weight is 0.45 pounds. I don't know. Like, that sounds about right for this.
It does. Yes.
I'm guessing that's right. And the dimension, that's probably about right. It would be about 5'4". Now, again, people are putting this info in, so who knows if it's right. And now we'll look at the ratings. So let's see if we can find some of the ratings. Remember I said the ratings. So we'll go down to the ratings.
Yep.
And we'll see if anybody. This person says it's overpriced, but that's only the top review. So whatever. But that's not because of size. It's just they don't like it.
They don't have to buy it.
Yeah. This person says they didn't like it. So there's nothing really here about the size. So I feel like this is probably accurate.
I mean, there's nothing in the picture on both of these sites here that would lead me to believe that this is something different, and especially because these I don't even see the ounces on them. So,
yeah, same thing here. Yeah, I think that this is the correct one. I just hate that this says 1.2 ounces. I almost feel like that's probably got the wrong thing put in there,
right?
Because I would be very surprised if this came in like 1.2 ounces. That would be twice this size.
Well, if you scroll down on Nordstrom's the Nordstrom listing, you see it says 1.7, which is interesting.
Oh, you're right. It sure does, right there. Okay, I think we're good. I mean,
well, 1.7 minus 0.5 brings us to the 1.2. So there, maybe that.
Yeah, you'd want to verify. It may have been that it was a bigger one here when this list came out, and then this changed.
Right.
So verify that if you can before, but it definitely does as 1.7. So this is where you got to be careful in complexity. Now, if I was looking at this listing brand new and I saw that disparity, I don't know about you, Frank, I might just move on from it.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And it's my lead I'm saying this about. So I'm not.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe. I mean, of course, you want to then do the next things kind of on your checklist, which is price history and are you able to sell it and then kind of make a decision from there. But I mean, it's definitely something that I would have my antennas up on.
Right. And this is the AZ Insight calculator. So one thing you can see right here is the buy cost. So we're going to go ahead and enter this buy cost. You're going to see that numbers change. Now, I have a custom cost set up here of 7%, which is basically sales tax. In some sites, and I know you're in the same boat, Frank, I can get tax exempt. Nordstrom, I cannot. I cannot. So I would actually pay that 7%. But usually these numbers on a lead list are going to be calculated without the sales tax because there's no way for the person pushing out the lead list to know your sales tax situation. Like, that's impossible. You may be exempt. Your state might not charge it. We don't know what the rate is, but you can always put that in AZ Insight. So I have it put in. But if you take it out, you see that this item profits $7.29. Which is pretty good profit.
Yep.
Our ROI is 29 at that number, a little lower than we'd like. And our margin you see is only 17. Now that to me is a little close, but if other factors make up for it, it still might be a buy.
Right.
And so then this is kind of what I do. And Frank, jump in whenever you like here or tell me that's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
The next section I look at is over here. I look at the 30, the 90, and the 180.
Yeah.
Now, I see that the sales rank is actually gotten better in the last 30 days. It went from 108 to 79. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
And this through here is an estimated sales. Now, this is estimating that this item sells 179 units per month, which is great. I mean, that's good. So I got to think to myself, can I get a chunk of that? Maybe, but that's good velocity. And when we look at this is a graph that looks like Keepa that AZ Insight provides right on page. You can see there's a lot of, and I've got it set for 90 days, but you can look at 30 days and change it. Every drop on the green is a sale. So it's definitely selling. And it looks like the price is staying up here around 40. New offers are coming on around 40, 42, 41. So somewhere close to what we have here. So I feel like, Frank, if I looked at this one from the numbers, I think these numbers are fairly accurate given all the factors. This item would probably sell for around this, maybe even a little higher than 42.86 because we see the price was higher for over 180 days, just a tad, around the same. But it's probably going to be around the $7 profit item, $7.29. And you can see here too, there's a break-even price at $34.28. So even at $34.28, I would technically net zero. I'd get my cost of goods back and move on. What are your thoughts on this one from what you've seen?
I mean, on my side here, that's why my eyes are wondering. I'm even going back like to its entire existence on Keepa and just seeing if Amazon has been on it at any point, and they have. But the last time we've seen an appearance by them was back in looks like before 2019, like right before 2019. So that's kind of a good sign. And even then, they were priced pretty competitively. I do like the frequency of the sales, and I do like that the price is staying standard. I saw someone post, earlier, what's our thoughts on with our experience with OA and the products dropping, and sometimes they don't at all, and then sometimes you'll see a whole history of the price being very, very consistent, and then for some reason when you send them in, then the price goes all over the place. But in this case, though, I do like the consistency of the price. Now, one thing I just noticed too, and maybe it's because of just the time and the duration that Amazon's taken to check in the items, but I don't see any FBA sellers on here too. Everyone looks to be from my naked eye to be merchant, but that doesn't mean that that's not going to change. So
and
I am liking what I'm seeing though thus far. Sorry, yeah.
Well, I didn't go that far into it yet, but you bring up a great point about who's selling this, and there's two other things you can look at here. One thing you can look at, remember this number 179. One thing you can look at is what's called the stock checker feature on AZ Insight, which this is going to show you how many units people have on hand, which is always nice to know because that kind of gives you an indication. Now, remember, this item right now we think is selling around about 180 units a month. And this is saying, now you have to let this load, but it looks like it's completely loaded now. There's probably only about 111 units in stock. Right. So there's not even a month's worth. That's a good sign. I want to see less here than more for the most part. And then the last thing I was going to show you in terms is the data tab in Keepa. I love the data tab. We're going to click on the data tab, and we're going to see if there's any buy box statistics over the past, I like to look 90 or even 100 days. Right. So you can see here in 180 days, this is what the buy box has done. 28% of the time, this person's had it at 44.93 average, 26%, 40.60. So again, this buy box seems like it's been over the last 6 months, it's been $40 to $45, and there have been a couple FBA sellers. We don't know how long they had it. We don't know how long it took them to sell through, but probably not too crazy long. And you can even sort this by the columns. You can see how it just now won, last one, review count, all these good things. I mean, overall, I would say this is probably a buy for me with this item. I will definitely check that ounce when I get it here, but I'd probably go ahead and buy it.
Right. And what's funny too, because I was just looking at the buy box statistics from my Keepa, and it gave me different percentages of the different sellers.
Yeah. It's going to be because everybody's pulling from the same source, but not all these software are looking at it exactly the same.
Right.
Josh Chaney asks, does the tool show the sales of that product or all variations of the listing? Yes, it's the variations tab here. Yeah. You have filters here. You can click off of the out of stock, suppressed, out of stock. You can turn those on and off. You can sort these columns. You can also turn them off and on. So you can select all. So this is really helpful with clothing, by the way, because you might want to see things like, hey, is this item really going to, is this particular variation going to sell? So I like to go in and highlight one that would be, what are we looking at here? This is gravity. This is super mud white. So you could highlight the super mud white and you click the link here, and that kind of like highlights the bar, and you can go across, you can see the average, the ranks and so on, landed price. One thing that's really nice about this is this shows you the review percentage. This particular one has been reviewed the most. 56% of the reviews have been this particular one. That means it's probably the best-selling one.
Right.
So that again leads credence to this being a better buy than maybe say like this one, where only 2% of the reviews have been this one. So a good quick tip. Again, you can find AZ Insight. Yeah, it's affiliate link. I'm open and honest, but it's right down below, and it's an affiliate link because I use the damn thing all the time because it's useful.
Right.
It's super useful. It also lets you have user accounts too, by the way, if you have a team, so you can have them sub accounts.
That's very nice. Yeah.
This also shows you the average price over that time too, but that's a little bit lower because some of these other ones have pulled it down. Although sometimes over time it will retreat to that, and you can do other things too. Like you can copy this to a Google sheet and create a review. Create a row. You can send it to a CSV. You can do all kinds of things. But I think this one would probably be a buy for me. But that's
I agree, especially with the consistency of the price. And listen, worst case scenario on these things, say you get it and it is for some reason down off, you just return it and just call it a day. But I do like the consistency and the frequency that it's selling at, and that meets some criteria. And you don't have to start crazy. You buy 3, you buy 4, even 5. Maybe 5's the limit if you really wanted to, depending on the budget. And if they sell, then next time you buy a little more, and then you keep going from there. And then maybe you'll have a replenishable, right? And that's the key, right? That's the hot new term everyone is talking about are these replenishables that are out there.
Yeah.
So
I still don't have one. Actually, I kind of do.
I do, but then what happens is when I go back to try to get them, they're sold out.
It's always the way. Somebody else had the same idea. Let's look at another one here. We're going to look at a clothing item. So this is an Adidas shoe. Now shoes are always a little bit tricky. So we're going to pull this one up and see what we got. I have not looked at these again in the past 2 weeks, so I don't know what the price has done. It probably hasn't changed too much. All right, so this is a racer shoe. This is another Nordstrom one. I don't order a lot from Nordstrom Rack, but I do some. Now, one thing I want to point out on this particular one, and Nordstrom in general, this is always a good tip, free shipping on orders, $89 plus. So one thing you can do if you have a whole bunch of leads is you can sort your list by store and say, hey, just show me on the Nordstrom, because I am buying an item from Nordstrom if you're not getting that $89 shipping, because you want to get free shipping if you can. Yeah. Now, granted, it's not hard to get free shipping at Nordstrom because $89, like that's usually like 2 items. But some stores, it can be high. I can't remember. Is it Macy's? I can't remember. There's one of the stores, the total is like $150 for free shipping. It's kind of high. So I will always pull up all my Macy's leads I have at any one moment and say, well, let me go in and source everything that I've got for Macy's right now. See if I can, just so I can get that free shipping. And that's just money in your pocket.
Yep.
Because you're going to buy those things anyway. So this particular one is a $59.97 shoe, TR running shoe. Now let me go back and look. Now we've got over here in our size note that this was a size 9 gray/black/Sonic ink is the color. So let's even see, is the 9 still available? And it is, and probably a medium width. And they call that color, this color they have here is gray 6 CBL. That might be the same thing. I don't know. And again, sometimes the colors between the source website and Amazon can be differently named. They're not always the same. But let's go over and look at this one. So, and this one is $59.97. All right, so let's see. And right now it's defaulted to a 9, which is also a 9. gray black Sonic ink. So this particular one, it looks like is probably a lot lower now. I'm guessing. I'm going to look at the variations here real quick. This is where the variations might come in, because you can see this shoe has 270 variations. Oh, way too many to go through. So we're going to narrow it down to whatever this color is that's left. 9 gray 6. Yeah, I think that's the same color. I feel like it is, but you always want to. This is a lot of attributes to go through.
Yeah,
It takes a moment.
It looks the same color though. It does look the same color.
Yeah, this one, let's see, 9. So we've got, and I could have sorted this and just said, hey, like you could go in, I'll show you that. So you can go in and say, I'm going to turn all these off and say, just show me the size 9. Right. And now it's down to 9. If we turn off the out of stock suppressed, like it gets even lower. If we turn off, we can turn off the out of stock and see even less. So we think this color is gray black Sonic ink. I think that's it. So if we scroll across now, like this one, it looks like the price has dropped more to closer to what it is on Amazon. And you see this person is marked at 20% off. So it was $75 at some point. I don't know when they marked it. But you can see recently this shoe has been up around $125.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are listing there. Now, here in the last few days even, I think my list came out probably around the 10th or 11th. So right around in here is where we sent it in. And this is a good tip. Like right around in here, Frank, is where the list came out, these five free leads. And this is what the price was. And it had been this price, except for some periods when Amazon jumped on it right here and a couple little times through here. Then it dropped. So now it's dropped to $59.97 all of a sudden, and everybody follows suit. Definitely not a buy at $59.97, right? If we put this in, like it's literally just going to lose money at this price. So now, what do you think, Frank? I already have my own feel. This is the keeper for this time. Would you risk a buy like this and it going back up, or would you pass on it for now with all these sellers are here? What's your thought?
Yeah, for me it would be a pass, but it would be one that I would go to maybe in a couple months from now, or even next month, just to see if anything has altered on there. Right now, there's I think too many variables, especially with Amazon going on there, and everyone then getting that knee-jerk reaction to have everything go to the bottom again. Especially when it comes to Amazon, you want to make sure that there's some wiggle room too, because the minute they jump on, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. So I wouldn't say I would totally abandon it. I just probably wouldn't purchase it right now.
Yeah, and you can see here when these listings came on at 125, when we pushed the lead out.
Yeah.
Now it makes
different
sense.
Story. Yeah, of course.
$32 profit, 53 ROI, 26 margin, break even was at 87.
Yep.
You know, and this is the nuts and bolts of selling on Amazon. I mean, you're not.
Oh yeah, totally.
You are not guaranteed this price is going to hold forever.
Nope.
Nope. You know, and you can see this one was lower, and there were some people higher. It's probably when some people went in or out of stock. Let me see what the buy box did on this. I'm just kind of curious. I'm going to go to this data and buy box. Yeah, so the buy box tended to stay a little bit lower. So it's really just a matter of like other sellers were jumping on. Probably somebody ran out. The price spiked for a day or two. They sold, done. But they weren't actually getting the buy box. So the buy box was probably suppressed at those higher prices, I would guess.
It always begs the question too, and you have to keep in mind with these other sellers, is it that they're really getting them at such a cheaper price that they're able to come down so low, or is it just they're trying to sell them and get rid of them, or are they just losing money on sales too? So again, there's a lot of things you have to consider. Sometimes I think maybe people's business acumen may not be at a certain level, so they're just wanting to get a sale no matter what the cost is.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have maybe time. Do we have time for one more? Do you have time for one more, Frank?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah, because we're kind of going through them kind of quick here now. Let's look at the list here again. This was Dick's Sporting Goods. Let's do this web restaurant store one.
Yep, I've bought from them before.
Now, this is the site that kind of irritates me. I'll be
Why?
perfectly
Because
honest.
the membership with the shipping, is that why?
Yes, you have
I
to have a
know.
membership to get the shipping, but
Yep.
Web Restaurant Store has a lot of great stuff
Lots of stuff and quantities too. Like if
and
you're wanting, if you're
quantities.
really interesting, if you're really interested in those packs I was talking about earlier, or stuff like that, this is a great place to go and do that.
Agree. Now, this is a case of placemats, not sexy, right?
No,
Not sexy at all.
that's what sells. That's what sells.
But people need this stuff. So, and so right away, I'm gonna look at a couple things here. I want to make sure that this is right. 1,000 per case and 10 by 14. And it looks like the dimensions down here support that too. Excuse me. It doesn't have a quantity listing. This weighs quite a bit, 9.5 pounds. So it's going to be a little expensive to ship in. That's going to push up your dimensional weight a bit.
Yeah.
But this looks right so far. 10 by 14, 1,000 per case. Now you notice here, buy 10 or more. Now you can get this price if you buy 1 or 2 cases, and this price if you buy 3 or 9. But they're trying to push you to buy 10 or more, and that might be the way to go. But it's not a big drop in my mind. 15.20 to 16.49. It's $1.29. I mean, it's not nothing, but you're talking about like 10 extra dollars of savings. It's not a crazy amount. And if the numbers don't justify it, I mean, what are you looking at? Let's go the highest, 16.49. So let's put in 16.49 and tell me what you're thinking on this one, Frank, when you see that kind of number put in and those numbers.
Yeah, I like it. I happen to like it. I don't mind the weight. In fact, I have a couple items behind me too that are on the heavier side, and that's because a lot of people aren't going to go into that. So those are the ones you want to think of, and that is a metric to me that's a little bit outside the box. Again, when you're getting into quantities, especially something like this of 1,000, subconsciously people are going to see the price and then see the quantity and then be like, oh, well, it makes perfect sense. To me, this is a complete buy. I would totally do this. And again, you don't have to go crazy with it. Start off with a couple to see. But I'm liking all the metrics thus far.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. Now, for all the reasons you said, it's a pretty good rank. It's top 1.25%, which is not bad in the category kitchen and dining. A couple other things I noticed about it. It's been available for 1,700 days.
Yeah.
So this one ain't going anywhere.
No.
And that means it's probably not fluctuating much in price, which it doesn't look like it has been. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit lower.
It's pretty consistent.
Yeah, and oh, by the way, cool little thing of AZ Insight. Right now, this is at the $49.97 buy box price. But if you see a price down here that's lower, and you want to see, well, what would it do with that? You can literally just click on the price, and it changes. So at that amount right there, if it dropped back to 37.18, you would literally just break even. So, which is nice to know. But let's go back to the $49.97. And you don't need it to. One thing I would say about the quantity on this, it's only selling estimated 33 a month. So I don't know what your criteria is, Frank, but when I'm in that like 20 to 40 range, 15 to 30, somewhere in there, I'm thinking 2-3 units. I might go higher if there's not a lot of competition and I can set on it for a while and doesn't take a lot of storage fees. But how do you view that?
Yeah, this is one of those ones where you want to then go on the site and find more products and really have a healthy order from them. Because then what you could do is justify getting a couple items just for this particular listing, but then I also have these other ones as well. I would start anywhere between 2 to 3 on this one, and hopefully it becomes one of those replens. But I would scour the site even more to try to find more items. This way you could get a kind of a big shipment. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. You notice here too, there's only about 5 people or 5 quantity here. So there's not a lot of quantity out there. Now, some people can play tricks sometimes with their inventory numbers and say limit the amount that I'm showing I have available. So sometimes that's not always 100% accurate, but I would guess in this case it's probably fairly accurate.
Yeah.
this is the FBM price. This is the FBA price. You could do this FBM if you wanted. FBM, by the way, shows here on the calculator over here, in this column. And you see that like there's a big difference in profit. And you're like, ooh, 24 versus 10. But you got to ship it.
Yeah.
So the shipping cost to ship this 9.5 pound, 14 by 10, a little bit bigger than that box, is not going to be cheap. Although I feel like that would go in a medium flat rate.
Well, I was just going to say that the key is, can you get that into a flat rate?
And that's probably about the same amount of cost, though. Isn't it going to be about $13 or $14 maybe?
Yeah, I would say around that $12 to $13 range.
So it's close.
It is close. It is close. Now, I just put some things on Merchant Fulfill too, and I know that they've sold quicker. FBA, there's still, I think, that stigma out there, although I think a lot of sellers are now transitioning to doing more FBM, but the products still sell quicker via FBA. So there is things to keep in mind with that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, an FBM obviously requires, you got to have space and shipping supplies and be ready to do that, be available to ship.
Yep.
So it's a different mindset.
It
not
is
totally different, but it's different in some ways that are significant. And again, if you wanted to go deeper on this, you could drop your cost to $15.20 and buy 10, which would cost you $150. I don't know what their shipping is on here. Free shipping, I guess, with their service. Oh, free shipping. So if that's free shipping, if your price was down at $15.20 a case, you can rerun the numbers. You see that pushed your profit up to $12.25 per unit. I don't know if I bought this or not, but now I'm thinking I really need to.
Well, the good thing about it also is there's a whole plethora of different colors too. So again, you could scour through it and see if maybe some of the other colors could be good options. And then
that's a great point, Frank. You just brought up rabbit trails, man. I forgot about that. Like you'd want to go on and see like these other colors if you could find them on Amazon.
Yep.
And there's lots of different ways to do that. One way you can do that is if you have AZ Insight, allows you to do a reverse search, basically. Right. You can do a context menu search through Google too, but I like to do a reverse search sometimes to see if I can find it. Sure. And it'll pull up options. I haven't tried this. I don't know if this will work or not. I don't know if any of these are the right one. You have to be careful with.
I'm looking at I found the navy blue one now, just now, and the prices even looks to be a little bit higher currently. So I mean, that could be a potential. That could definitely be a potential. Even though last month though the price was a little lower than the red one, but again, goes to show you it could be an option.
Yeah, for sure. And you can always do some rabbit trails if you'd like. I mean, let's be honest. Like, again, we talked about at the beginning, this is not a sexy product.
No.
But if you told me that I'm going to consistently make 30, let's say if I'm going to sell 3 a month, I'm going to make $36 a month off of this item. And I'm going to have to buy them like once every quarter. I'm going to buy like 10 or 12 of them. I mean, I don't know. You get enough of those going. I mean, remember, this is a 1,700 day item, and it has been lower at some periods when it wasn't selling. So you'd have to watch that for sure. But right now it seems to be selling a bit better. And even at a $41 price, you would make a little bit off of it. So, replenishable type items like this, I mean, those base hits add up to runs.
Oh, absolutely. I think they're key. And I think a lot now, I think those sellers who have really attacked things like paper plates, napkins, paper towels, I could pretty much assure you they're doing very well, because those are things that are in need, especially with this whole, supply chain stuff going on.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, so, I mean, I hope that like that was helpful to see kind of an OA sourcing process. I think I speak for Frank when I say we certainly know everything there is to know about it. And I'm sure we still make some mistakes. I still make some questionable buys from time to time. But I think if you start with good information, if you start with the right tools, you got a chance. If you start with a good blueprint and the right tools, you got a chance to build a house. It might fall down around you, but you're going to need the right tools and you need the right information. That's why I started the lead list. And that's why because I just saw some of the things that were deficient in lead list. So I'm trying to address some of those.
Totally. And this is
And
good because you get an insight as to really the buying decisions at the end of the day. I think there's more to it than people let on. So I hope this was able to help.
yeah, and just to give you some context, and I don't know how quickly Frank goes through these, I probably only spend 30 to 30 seconds maybe on a particular lead, maybe not even that much sometimes. It might be lower than it. Maybe 45 would be the high end, unless I'm really curious. And if I start finding myself spending more time than that, I realize I should have probably just passed and gone on to the next lead. So it doesn't take nearly as long as we did. We stopped and
No,
explained a lot
no.
of things.
Right. I agree. Yeah, I agree. Under a minute.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, listen, I think that's going to do it for today, everyone. Frank, I want to thank you very much for coming on. This is your first time, and
Sure.
man, you just
Yeah.
crushed it. So
My
much
pleasure.
insight, so much wisdom. Frank's an OG Amazon seller from way back in the day, before Bezos.
Before
Not
bed.
before Bezos, but way back in the day. So definitely hook up with him. We'll drop some contact info in the description, and you can find him on Facebook as well. One more quick question before we go. Do your older videos outline the AZ sign up process and what all you need? Thanks. I think I have some in there, Brian, but it's right in the description of this video as well. And you can just go in there and click on the AZ Insight tool. It's an affiliate link, but check it out and see if you like it. I think they give you a free trial of like 7 or 14 days. I don't remember. But it's a great little tool. I've tried a couple other ones, and I tend to like this one the best overall for all the customizing. I didn't even go through all the stuff, but customizing and all that stuff doesn't matter. It's like, does it move the needle and help you make profitable decisions? And my response to that is yes, it does. So there you go. All right, Frank, you got anything else?
Just always be sourcing. Always be sourcing. It never stops. I think the key at the end of the day is inventory, and take it from, again, my experience. If you heard me earlier where I said I've this is more than 10 years now, and I've been up and down and all around, and a lot of that up and down and all around is to my own doing, where it's the frequency of shipments selling in, the constant almost aggressively just looking for leads and stuff like that. So definitely always be sourcing, always be sending stuff in. That's the name of this game. So
Totally agree. Always be sourcing. That was very Glenn Ross there.
yeah, I was thinking that because that's one of my
Always be closing.
always be closing.
All right, everyone. So thanks again for joining us. Check out the description and everything down below for all the info and links to this stuff. And we'll see you real soon. And as the head profit miner, I'm going to say, keep on digging.
There you go.